This is episode 1 of Grumpy Jews Who Read. Enjoy. Welcome to Grumpy Jews, open parentheses, who read, close parentheses. Thanks to Sadie Freirish for that title. So I am Jonathan Freirish, and I am joined by Marty Reich, and we are connected not just by funny last names, but by the fact that Marty happens to be my mother. And so we are not grumpy by nature, but we're using grumpy Jews because there's this thing about what it means to be Jewish, a Jewish optimist. And both of us are New Yorkers after a sort. Uh, Marty is a lifelong New Yorker. Mom, how long have you lived in New York City?
Hmm. 76 years.
Well, you weren't all those years in New York City. You were
No,
slightly outside New York City.
that's true. I was slightly out of New York, but I always thought I was a New York City person.
Whereas your other child, my sister, does not count me as a New Yorker any longer
No, you're
because while
Buffalo.
I was born and raised in New York, I haven't lived in New York long,
That's true.
right? So in the latest New York Times Are You a New Yorker quiz, I did not get all those questions right because
Okay.
I haven't been in New York recently enough to know that there are green cabs.
There are green cabs, and they can't go below 95th Street, I think, or 96th Street. So
So
you don't know. That's right. Your sister's correct.
so
And I wasn't raised here, but I was raised on Long Island, which is a fringe. But I think what we have to talk about is, are we grumpy or are we not grumpy? And
well,
most importantly, how much we read.
it's true, but why are New Yorkers thought of as grumpy or rude?
Hmm. I think it's a misjudgment of people who don't know us. We are generous and caring. We help the stranger. We're also giving,
I
very
think
giving.
we are all those things, and I think what people often misinterpret is that New York is often crowded, and that the way we cope with the crowds as New Yorkers is we have sort of a very narrow personal space. That means before we're going to engage, we have to sort of guard ourselves because we have to maintain our personal space when we're crowded, shoulder to shoulder in the subway.
I talk to people on the subway all the time, and I definitely talk to people on buses. But I do want to tell you things that I am grumpy about.
What are you grumpy about?
I am grumpy about cocktail menus in restaurants. Like a drink. A drink is a drink. A drink is a bourbon or a vodka or a drink, but it isn't five different ingredients that I have to spend a lot of time reading. So I just want a drink. I am grumpy about it. That's it.
So
What are you,
okay, but
what are
but
you
a
grumpy?
but a good Manhattan, for example,
Yes, that's okay.
might have five ingredients.
Hmm, but that's an acceptable drink. It's been around.
It's an important topic,
Well,
and
we'll
and,
come
and I
up
want to
with
get
another
into
thing.
it, but we need to define terms first.
Okay, but
First of all, we
yes.
we are we are grumpy about this because we appreciate it. So this is like at some point or another you turned to Ginny and me. I think it was you. It may have been some. No, it wasn't you. It was somebody else. Somebody else turned to Ginny, to whom I happen to be married, who isn't a New Yorker but is so similarly sort of critical thinker, and said, "Why do you go to the movies? You come back and all you do is talk about how terrible the movie was." No, and we're like, no, no, no. We really enjoyed that movie, but here are all the things that we think could have been better. We've got more to talk to about on cocktails. I just wanted the grumpiness is sort of a critical eye that people hear as grumpiness. We're not really grumpy about cocktails. We love cocktails.
That's
We're
right.
grumpy about the crappy presentation of cocktails in restaurants right now because I am with you, right?
Okay.
But of course this is the this is the thing, right? So I, for example, do not understand why people would have an alcoholic beverage that doesn't taste like alcohol, like what you're saying. But it turns out that this phenomenon has existed for a long time.
And I like it. I happen to like it because I think a lot of us should not be drinking so much anyway.
For
But
sure. But why we should have, when I was a younger person, there were wine spritzers or wine coolers, right? These were pre-processed alcoholic drinks that were made to taste not like alcohol, or the Xena, they had an alcoholic 7 Up. Now they have hard seltzers. These are not drinks. This is
Well,
what we are grumpy about, right?
well,
So you show up to a restaurant and you're going to pay 10 or 15 or $25 for a cocktail, right? In New York City, it's $25 for a cocktail, right?
correct, correct.
And and you want it to feel like a drink. So a Manhattan that has been tailored slightly differently, right? Because a Manhattan has, bourbon or rye. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Red vermouth and some other things. But it still tastes good. Okay, what did you want to talk about?
Well, our title is Grumpy Juice, and we're not. As you have pointed out before, we're really optimistic people. We just have comments about a lot of things that cross our perception during the day. I think we want to talk about books because most of the people who know you and most of the people, all the people who know me, know that books are a major part of our lives.
So
So we want
so
to talk
here's a
about
question. Here's a question, Mom.
that.
Should you finish a book?
Yes and no. You should finish it if it's giving you pleasure and if you're learning from it and if the writing is joyful and thought-provoking, you should not finish it if you hate it.
When did you first give yourself permission to not finish a book?
That's a good question because when I grew up, you had to finish a book. At least your grandmother used to say that. I think it wasn't until I was pretty much an adult and I realized I was very busy and reading a book and I didn't have time to read something that I really didn't like anymore. And I've really gotten pretty selective and I do not finish a lot of books. What I have learned, this is most important.
It's more important. I think this, first of all, is a beautiful teaching because one of the things that I am not good at is I am not good at self forgiveness, giving myself grace.
Ah,
And so,
you give yourself permission to not finish a book.
right, I never give myself permission to not finish a
Ah,
book. Well, no, I have, but it's been rare. It's been rare. Mostly, I have given myself permission to not finish books that are recommended to me by other people that turn out to be duds.
because you feel guilty.
No, then I'm okay. I'm okay
Okay.
not finishing, because it depends on the relationship, right? Some of my relationships are entirely based on the fact that I take book recommendations seriously.
I get that. And I
However,
also do. But a
I
lot of
think
people suggest books that are popular, that are selling very well. And that's not always going to be what I'm going to enjoy. And I have started dipping back into time and finding older books that I somehow missed and having reading them now. So here's the thing. I think everybody should give themselves permission to start a book and just say, I don't like this.
have you ever gotten angry after you started a book and gotten upset, frustrated
Oh,
with the book?
I sure have. Especially if I bought it and didn't take it out of the library. Oh yeah, I'm real angry that I got sold this bill of goods. But I don't do that anymore. I read lots of reviews. I talk to people before I start a book. So I have some information at my disposal. But now the next step is how long do you read before you finally give it up? And I would say 100 pages is a fair amount of judgmental time, but I will go further if it's something that I think I should do. So it's really a case by case situation.
All right. So this leads to the question of we had this experience this summer where you recommended a book to me, but now you are cautious about recommending books to me because I did the unthinkable. I read farther in the book after you had given up on it, and then said, "Oh no, no, Mom, it's actually worth reading." So I forced you to pick it up again.
And it was okay. I don't remember which book it was, but it was okay. The other thing that happens is if I recommend a book and I haven't finished it and then it isn't good, then I have a lot of problems. So I'm not doing that anymore. I'm only recommending books that I have finished.
Interesting, because you're not gonna the book could have gone bad.
It could have gone bad, and I don't want to give that to somebody.
Well,
Now,
that seems reasonable.
we're going to start to come up with some titles in this podcast.
The book that
What
in
was that?
question that we are talking about,
Yeah. I didn't like Better Living Through Birds.
Through Birding, you didn't like that.
Yeah,
Why
really
not?
boring and repetitive.
Mothers and Sons, a novel by Adam Haslett.
Oh, yeah,
The reason why you recommended it to me
yeah,
was because there was this relationship between two women, and
right,
they hosted retreats
right.
for
Oh, yeah,
women in Vermont,
yeah,
and it
yeah,
sounded good at the outset,
yeah.
and there were some interactions, and then some of it wasn't so great, but it
I
did
think,
get better.
yeah, there are books that I will really, really recommend. I just haven't told you about one this
Please
week.
tell us.
The Known World by Edward Jones, Edward P. Jones.
Uh-huh.
It's about slavery, and it's great, and I want you to put it on your list.
Okay,
Also,
then The
maybe
Known
10,
World by Edward P. Jones, one of the most acclaimed novels in recent memory. The Known World is a daring and ambitious work by Pulitzer Prize winner Edmund P. Jones.
right, and it's old. I think it's 10 years or more.
It's old. No, it's first published September 1st, 2003.
Okay, and I found it. I don't know how I found it, but I found it, and that's what I'm saying about going back in time. And this is a great book.
So this is a very
Pretty
important
about
thing. I think
slavery. It's
I,
not
I
really
think
about slavery, but
I think this is an important thing to recognize in reading is that there's a time gap between books that are always recommended because they're classics and then sort of our desire to read something new. I am constantly trying to read something new and updated because I'm trying to read the latest thinking on social and political issues on the one hand. On the other hand, there are some books that really ought to be read regardless of when they were written. And I think there's a gap, right? It takes a long time before a book is called a classic. But there are books that were written, when I was a kid that we now call classics. And but a book written in the early double aughts doesn't seem like it's that long ago that it would be a classic, but it may or may not have been a great book when it came out, and it's still worth reading, even though it was published in 2003. And I think
right.
we're caught in this cultural desire for the new always, and
Well,
I
the
think
news is so perfect or good. But
that's
I
right.
have a lot of friends. Now remember, you and I are two different generations.
I
My friends, the recurring cry that I hear is I can't find a good book. And if you go onto the list and I look at Goodreads, the New York Times, Guardian, you name the list, the Wall Street, I get lists and lists and lists. And there aren't a lot of great books out there. So when I found this one, and let me tell you something else. I have learned to do something called curating, and I curate lists. I'm not going to tell you to read a lot of the things that I read. I know you wanted me to read Ancillary Justice,
Well,
which,
because I wanted you to read some. You said should you broaden your horizons and read some sci-fi?
and I did start it, and the writing is really good. I'm just not sure I can get into the plot. I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to go back to it. Okay. I think
Uh,
I wanted
so
you,
I want to cover a couple of other things before we
okay,
finish.
okay.
But what did you want to say?
Well, there are a lot of big books out there right now that I have really taken uh, umbrage with.
Oh
Uh,
yes, like
yeah.
what?
Well, There's a big hot book out there now called Flashlight by Susan Choi. Boy, it's I didn't really hate it, but the to do about it is just too much. That's one that there's a real lot of to do. And then
No,
okay,
it's,
we'll talk
it's
about
so why do you think what
I don't get it. I just don't get it. The writing is okay. It's just you don't waste your time.
okay. Well,
So
so
what's
this
the
is
other
important,
topic?
right? It now and what the type of reader you are, which
Yeah,
is different from a lot of other people,
right.
is
Literary,
in your curating of books, not just for others but for yourself, you
right.
do a lot of reading about reading.
I do. I do that.
Most most
A
people
lot
do
of
not.
reading about reading.
Most
I
people do not do that.
also read, mediocre books that are just sort of light and airy, what people used to call beach reading. And I'll do that when I really need something to just sort of, it's like watching television, right?
Airport reading.
That's right. Right. And it's like watching Grey's Anatomy. That I enjoy it, but it's not really inspiring.
It's not improving your
I
life.
mean, I'm reading Mona's Eyes now, but we'll talk about that another time because that's such an important book, but not for everybody. Not for everybody.
All right, so we've covered this. I want we talked about one thing that we're grumpy about, cocktails.
Right. We have to
Uh,
think of other things. I'm not that grumpy about other things. And
no, what I'd like you to talk about is something that you're not grumpy about, the opposite of grumpy. So one of the things that made you what was delighting to you in the last little while was your ability to get an earlier appointment with a rheumatologist.
yeah, which is why all of our grandchildren should be rheumatologists. But yeah,
so
that
what
was a great moment in my week a few weeks ago
so
because
what
I
happened?
I met a gatekeeper at Mount Sinai Hospital who makes appointments for doctors. And she and I just got along. And I just said to her, you're great. And the reason that she moved me up the list, because what I got a doctor's appointment like 2 months hence. And I said to her, so tell me something. There's a problem. You're the second rheumatologist I've tried to get an appointment with, and it's always 2 months out. And she said,
It was 3 months or 4 months out,
3 months. It was April. You're right. And I was calling in October.
right? So that's 6 months.
6 months. She said, well, it's a problem in New York. There aren't enough rheumatologists. I said, wow. She said, it's a niche. I said, well, I have two grandchildren now in college and a few more going next year. I now know what I'm going to do. All of them have to be rheumatologists. And she started to laugh and she said, I'll put you up on the list because you made me laugh. And then 2 days later, I got an appointment for the following week.
So this is
That's
the
a
thing.
really important thing to happen in New York City. You don't get appointments with the top rheumatologist at Mount Sinai in a week, but I
No,
did.
this doesn't happen. And this is the flip side of being quote unquote grumpy Jews is that we are always on the lookout for making relationships
That's
and
right. And
and
using your
connecting with
sense of
people.
humor counts. And so we're not grumpy, we're cheerful about something as sort of amazing as that.
So and as as your granddaughter noted when we were studying for her bat mitzvah the other day, it turns out the rabbis even call God being sarcastic. We found a classic text talking about God using a sarcastic tone. And so that some people interpret our sarcasm as grumpiness. And it's not
Not.
that. It's we are trying to make light and have a sense of humor in a world that sometimes is not so easy to
It's not
make
so
light
great
of.
right now. It's not so great right now, except New Jersey is great and Virginia is great and Georgia's great. So there's some light there.
So
And
the phrase for being a Jewish optimist that I like to use is it could be worse.
it could be worse. But right now there are certain elements that couldn't be worse, but we'll go on. Anyway, this was good.
So thank you all for listening if you've listened, and we hope there will be more Grumpy Jews who read to come. And we wish everybody a great day and a good week.